our YouTube. What up, guys? It is James Rico. I'm back. Give me 2 seconds as I organize myself. It is a Sunday. It's a beautiful, beautiful Sunday. And we're back at it. Chapter 6. James Clear, Atomic Habits. You know why you're here. If you're at chapter 6 with me, you are well aware of what's going on. So, and if you're not, if you're a new first-time viewer of these reviews, welcome. My name is James Rico. I'm a director, writer, DP, editor, business owner. I specialize in music videos for the last 12 years of my life. And if you want to see any of that work that I've done, then you could go see it at therealgoats.com. Me and my video production team, The Real Goats, have produced and directed for some amazing artists, mainstream, independent, whatever you want to call it, but we've been there, we've done that, and we continue to do that. And I've enjoyed all the moments of this creation with Real Goats. And I'm currently been on this wonderful adventure of trying to write my first feature film. And that's my first task. After I'm done, after I write the film, then I got to figure out how to make it. But that we're not going to think about like how we're going to get it funded or how we're going to make it, because right now I'm more focused on writing. So, welcome back again. If you've already been with us, and if you're newly timed, thank you for joining. Today, we're talking about Chapter 6, Atomic Habits by James Clear. And this chapter is called The Motivation. This chapter is uniquely called The Motivation is Overrated. Environment often matters more. Kind of feels like a little bit of a, like, okay, well, what does this guy have to say if he's saying motivation's overrated? Because we're always saying you got to be motivated. I'm not, or we say we're not motivated. I'm not motivated today. There's probably more I'm not motivated than motivated. And I love, as I tap into my self-awareness, knowing that it's you got to be very careful about what you're saying when it comes to working towards a goal, working towards a dream, and using that word motivation. I've learned to now use discipline. I want to be disciplined, because that's what takes more. It takes more discipline to create a system. I'm learning here with James Clear. It takes discipline to create a system, and then it takes discipline and persistence and grit to execute your system, because motivation is often not there. We're often not motivated. Almost every day. You can be motivated one day out of the whole week. That's not good. How are you going to achieve whatever you're going to achieve? How are we going to do that? You won't. You won't achieve it. It will take you forever to achieve whatever goal you want. If you're waiting on motivation. It doesn't come that way. It's not that easy. So, I hope your Sunday is wonderful beyond that. Beyond being unmotivated. Hopefully I pray that your Sunday has been great. I woke up feeling amazing. I set a schedule, got up on my schedule. I did almost everything I needed to do for the day. The only things I need to finish doing is spend time with my family and maybe do 30 minutes of writing. This was one of the things on my list to do, was a live review. So I'm getting that done. I'm feeling good about that. And this is what we're doing. We're creating habits with James Clear. Atomic Habits. So I'm using it already. If you watch any of these videos and haven't tried to do anything with your life yet, or haven't tried to adopt some of his principles, then damn it, why are you watching? Why are you watching? That's not the reason why I'm making these. I want you to create a better habit. I want you to get rid of your bad habits, get some good ones. Okay. So, if you're not familiar with what we do here on these reviews, all I do is I review his main points of the chapter. And then I give, at the end, some personal some personal insight on how I see this affecting my life. I'm being vulnerable with you guys, okay? I'm going to share a little bit of problems that I have so you can see that you might relate a little bit to, and it's a conversation. So what I'm going to do, I've noticed I've been trying to set 5 minutes for these chapter reviews. It's not working. So let's try to nail it in 7. This video's intro is a little bit longer. We're starting at 5 minutes already. We've already spent 5 minutes in the beginning here, just kind of chatting, being a chatterbox. So we're going to go ahead and set 7 minutes, try to make a 12-minute marker. Let's try to aim for 20 minutes. 20 minutes, your life is going to be that much better, okay? I promise you it's worth every minute every minute you're giving me is worth it. So thank you. Thank you for giving me your minutes. All right, we started the timer. So at the end of the chapter, again, he has a chapter summary in his book, and I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to go to the section of the book where it elaborates. So the first thing he wants you to remember about chapter 6, small changes in context can lead to large changes in behavior over time. He starts the chapter talking about a hospital trying to upgrade and help the people in the hospital eat better and eat healthier. And one way they started is by adding water all around their stations in the hospital. At first, there was just only soda, and the doctors felt, well, maybe if we just place water stations at every place that a drink station is, and then also more at the counter of when they check out, let's see what happens. And by doing that, they realized after 3 months that soda sales had dropped 11%, while the bottled water sales increased by 25%. So he said people often choose products not because of what they are, but because where they are. He says, despite our unique personalities, certain behaviors tend to arise again and again under certain environmental conditions. So he says, most common form of change is not internal, but external. We are changed by the world around us. Behavior is a function of the person in the environment. The second thing he talks about in this chapter is every habit is initiated by a cue. We are more likely to notice cues that stand out. He starts to talk about the suggestion impulse buying, and that this is triggered when a shopper sees a product for the first time and visualizes a need for it. In other words, customers will occasionally buy products not because they want them, but because of how they are presented to them. For example, items at eye level tend to be purchased more than those down near the floor. For this reason, you will find expensive brand names featured in easy-to-reach locations on store shelves because they drive the most profit, while cheaper alternatives are tucked away in harder-to-reach spots. The same goes for end caps, which are the units at the end of the aisles. End caps are money-making machines for retailers because they are obvious locations that encounter a lot of foot traffic. He said, the truth, however, is that many of the actions we take each day are shaped not by the purposeful drive and choice, but by the most obvious option. So that's, I mean, I could definitely, I can relate to being at the store and seeing all those things right in front of my face, wanting to buy. I'm like, hey, I think I need that. I think I didn't have it on my list, but I think I need it now. It's in my face. The third point of the chapter that he wants to make is make the cues of good habits obvious in your environment. Before I get to that, he mentions that perception is directed by our sensory nervous system. We perceive the world through sight, sound, smell, touch, and taste. He says the most powerful of all human sensory abilities, however, is vision. The human body has 11 million sensor receptors. Approximately 10 million of those 11 are dedicated to sight. Visual cues are the greatest catalyst of our behavior. For this reason, a small change in what you see can lead to a big shift in what you do. Again, For this reason, a small change in what you see can lead to a big shift in what you do. Think about when you go watch like horrible content on the internet, and all of a sudden you want to do horrible things. You want to eat bad food. You want to eat and drink. You want to smoke. When you watch a rap video, what do you want to do? Oh shit, I kind of want to smoke now. I want to party. Let's go pick up some chicks, right? I'm going to go scroll and look at other beef that's going on. I'm sorry I'm picking on hip-hop videos. There's like, you know, think about the rabbit hole you go in when it goes to like conspiracy theory videos. If you ever look at those, you go in a rabbit hole. You start believing something. The world's flat? Oh. Wait, satellites are not real? Oh. What's in Antarctica? The fourth thing he wants you to remember about this chapter is... Oh, sorry, hold on. Make sure I get all those for you. Okay, sorry, I didn't finish. Again, the point that I need to finish is that make the cues of good habits obvious in your environment. So he said every habit is initiated by a cue, and we are more likely to notice cues that stand out. It's not easy to read a book when the bookshelf is in the corner of the guest room. It's not easy to take your vitamins when they are out of sight in the pantry. He starts to give examples of how he improved his health and his lifestyle. He said in his home, his eating habits in his home, he shares an example, and he says, I bought a large display bowl and placed it in the middle of the kitchen counter, and he filled it with fruit and apples. He also gives another example. If you want to drink more water, fill up a few bottles each morning and place them in common locations around the house. If you want to make a habit a big part of your life, make the cue a big part of your environment. The most persistent behaviors usually have multiple cues. He said the same strategy can be employed for good habits. By sprinkling triggers throughout your surroundings, you increase the odds that you'll think about your habit throughout the day. Making a better decision is easy and natural when the cues for good habits are right in front of you. But you can alter the space. Oh, sorry. Okay, before I get there. So the last thing he says, making a better decision is easy and natural when the cues for good habits are right in front of you. He said the fourth thing that he wants you to remember. Oh man, 7 minutes. I went on some small rants, so I get it. We'll say we have 2 more points to make, so let's give it 3 minutes. 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Here we go. The fourth thing he wants you to remember is gradually your habits become associated not with a single trigger, but with the entire context surrounding the behavior. The context becomes the cue. So he says the cues that are triggered a habit can start out very specific, but over time your habits become associated not with a single trigger, but with the entire context surrounding the behavior. For example, many people drink more in social situations than they would ever drink alone. The trigger is rarely a single cue, but rather the whole situation. Watching friends order drinks, hearing the music at the bar, seeing the beers on tap. We mentally assign our habits to the locations in which they occur: the home, the office, the gym. Each location develops a connection to certain habits and routines. You establish a particular relationship with the objects on your desk, the items on the kitchen counter, the things in your bedroom. It says our behavior is not defined by the objects in the environment, but the relationship to them. In fact, this is a useful way to think about the influence of the environment on your behavior. Stop thinking about your environment as filled with objects. Start thinking about it as filled with relationships. Think in terms of how you interact with the spaces around you. The last thing he wants you to remember about this chapter is it is easy to build new habits in a new environment because you are not fighting against old cues. So there's a few things that I pick up on this that he doesn't really mention, but he says it helps to escape the subtle triggers and cues that nudge you toward your current habits. Go to a new place, a different coffee shop, a bench in the park, a corner in your room or that you seldomly use, and create a new routine there. It is easy to associate a new habit with a new context than to build a new habit in the face of competing cues. It can be difficult to go to bed early if you watch television in your bedroom at each night. It can be hard to study in the living room without getting distracted if that's where you always play video games. But when you step outside your normal environment, you leave your behavioral biases behind. You aren't battling old environmental cues, which allows new habits to form without interpretation. He says, whenever possible, avoid mixing the context of one habit with another. Boom. I think I got it all. Oh, not really. Last thing. If your space, he talks about if your space is small and limited, the things that are in your environment. If your space is limited, divide your room into activity zones. A chair for reading, a desk for writing, a table for eating. Every habit should have a home. So I really connected with these thoughts. So let's talk about how I see them affect me, and maybe you could relate a little bit on your own terms. So the first one is this room that I'm in. I had to write them all down because I'm going to forget them all. The first room is the room that I'm in. This is where I edit and this is where I create content. This is also where I brainstorm tons of ideas for my movie. This is also where sometimes I do discords or meetings with my team, or this is where I edit on a discord with somebody. This is where I create treatments. This is where I spend all my personal, professional alone time in, right? And it's mixed with so much different things that I'm doing in one space. The majority of it is editing photos, video, and creating treatments. So sometimes, beyond that, it's like the business, right? So sometimes I see myself getting the urge to want to edit photos or check emails more when I'm writing, when I'm trying to write. And that's a new habit I'm trying to create, writing my script, right? And writing often. That's a new habit that I'm trying to create that's hard for me to develop here in this room because I've never done it before. I've always associated this room more for creating content, shooting my videos, editing my photos, doing lives, all these things that are a little bit easier and less stressful for me, or they come very much more natural to me. I'm doing them in this room. So when I'm all of a sudden now doing a new habit, I have a tick. Maybe if I get stuck sometimes, I want to go ahead and just write. When I get stuck writing, sorry, I'll take this back. When I get stuck writing, sometimes I have the urge to want to check an email or get up and leave the room and go get something to eat. Or I have an urge to check my phone to see what's going on, check my social media, see if anybody's made any updates, look at any emails that I've got. And I start doing all these things that have nothing to do with writing versus allowing myself to just keep working through the problem that I'm dealing with writing. One of the other things that I wrote down was my kitchen, that I associated that with my morning routine. At one point, I was really trying my hardest to wake up. While cleaning the dishes that morning, I would listen to affirmations, help me get my mind right, make sure that I'm starting my day great. I would do my prayers. I would journal, and by the time I'm done with my coffee, then my daughter's up and ready to go. So then I got to make her breakfast, and I've learned to associate the kitchen as that. So in a positive manner, I've learned to make the kitchen a place of relaxation for me when I'm cooking, a place of positivity, knowing that I'm going to use this time to clean and I'm gonna use this time to listen to affirmations, use this time to pray, use this time to read. So whenever I'm in the kitchen, I have this really great positive feeling about myself in there. Sometimes I stand in there when I'm stuck here and I think. I just stand in there and I think, and I walk around and I drink my energy drink and I just kind of figure things out. So the kitchen to me is very much a positive area. My basement is, not only in my basement do I have this room, but I have my lounging room, the room where I watch TV and I watch my movies. And so it's a lot harder for me to, whenever I've taken my laptop out there, to sit there and read or write. I noticed that. And this is before reading this. It's just the reminder of when you're in a place that you've developed a habit or a cue, you see the TV, you're going to want to turn it on. You see a couch that is your relaxation couch, you're going to not want to do work. Use this to our benefit. We use this to our benefit to create a habit, right? In the room, you see that there's color lighting, right? So another thing I realized is that I associate color lighting with my work. I've learned, because I'm a DP, because I love filmmaking, that color influences the feeling that we have. So when I was touring all the time and in nightlife, I was often working, and I associated nightlife with work, right? And so anytime it would become night, I wanted to work. And anytime I seen club lighting, I was working. So I enjoyed the energy that I had by seeing the nightlife, by seeing colors that were associated with nightlife, and I made sure that in my room I have these kind of colors. And this is before the book, but I'm realizing this is probably why I feel this way, is that I associated that with hard work and working long hours. And so I light my room with cooler colors or abstract colors and I change them depending on how I want to feel, to red, green, blue, purple. Like, I will experiment with the colors that are around me. Oftentimes I just like a clean blue with warm lights around it, so that the warm lights make me feel good and the blue lights make me feel, a little happy, a little clubby. Coffee shops. He mentioned coffee shops. Coffee shops is like, probably any entrepreneur can associate with the idea of a coffee shop, and what that does for them, and how for some reason they feel like they're more proactive in a coffee shop. And it's funny he mentions it, because it's more about that like, for me, I know that I'm there because I'm there to work. I'm there to step out of the house. I can't think anymore in my house. I need a new environment. And even though there's other people around, I don't find that distracting. I find it actually more motivating, because now people are around me looking at me and wondering what the hell I'm doing. So I'm more focused, actually. And I know why I'm there. I'm there to do whatever I went there to do. When I was this past year writing in February, I was there. I went to the coffee shop almost every time I took my daughter to school. I would go there, get my breakfast burrito, get my coffee, and by the time I was leaving, I had accomplished a lot with my writing. I felt really good, very strong, very positive oriented, because I knew that this was something that kept me focused. He talked about, again, going out and getting a new environment if you're feeling stuck. So I did that last year with my cousin's property. He has this property out in the middle of nowhere, and I really felt like, hey, I want to get out in the middle of the country, be disconnected to the internet, be disconnected to everything. And I went out there, stayed there a week with a friend. One of my friends is a writer too, and he said he'd be down to go out there with me and just spend the week and support me. At first, I thought he was going to go out there write too with me, but came to find out he was there more for moral support. So I appreciated it, but at the same time, I wish that we would have wrote together, because I do think he's an amazing writer. And regardless, that's not the point that I was trying to make. What I was trying to say was that when I went out there, because it was a new space, I was able to create all these new habits. I created a space where in the mornings where I would drink my coffee. I would get up 6 o'clock, be out the door by 6:30, and I would be doing I would walk around his property for about an hour and get a walk in, and I would listen to affirmations, and I would pray, and I would give thanks to everything as I'm walking, and I'm taking in good energy. And I started to develop that habit of walking. And as I came home, I knew exactly, like, I was going to go take a shower, and then I was going to eat my breakfast. Now I got my coffee. Now I'm going to sit down and I'm going to watch my videos about and do research on my writing. And then after my research, I'm going to start writing and force myself to do that. Break for lunch, eat my lunch inside, because now I was writing outside and it's hot, and I go inside. So I developed it was really easy for me to develop a routine in that new space. And by the end of it, the thing that I enjoyed the most about doing that was that I had to go somewhere to get myself to start believing in what I was doing as a writer. I needed something big to break me of this idea that it's scary, right? And when I did something that drastic, it allowed me to have and build confidence. I knew that, and this is the point that I want to make beyond that, is like the idea of doing something extreme or going to an extreme environment. You know, when people say, like, I need to be in the woods, or I need to go by a lake, and I need to do something to help me be motivated to be creative. I do believe that it's good ever so often to get yourself to do that. I think if we're trying to develop a habit that's consistent, like when I went out on this vacation and with my wife, and I started reading, and I started making these vlogs for people over 8 weeks ago, I can't just develop a habit on a vacation in that space, because it's not practical. Like, I have to develop the habit and then continue to do it no matter where I go. And that's what it reminded me of when I went out there. I said, you know what? I can't always do this because it's not practical for me to be out here in the middle of nowhere. And so I pushed myself as hard as I could to then get as far to break myself of like the doubt. And then when I came back into this space where I'm at now, I learned to create the habit of writing by just forcing myself to do it. And I have plenty of humps even today. I took a break from February. At the end of February, I was done with my short film. Took a long break, which was one of the things I realized I shouldn't have done. I should have just kept going because I was in the moment of creativity. But when I got the thing that I was most happy about was like, okay, I completed the I wrote the short film. I did what I said. I made the treatment. I did everything I was supposed to do this month, and I believed in myself, and I did it, right? It was a short film script. It wasn't a feature script, right? I could write a bunch of short films, but I want to write a feature. So, this past June, I made another commitment to myself to say, you know what, you're not going to do videos again. You got to get the script done, right? After about 4 weeks now, I'm about 70 pages into my feature script. It's been a long road, but I got about, I would say I have another 60 pages to write. I think the script will probably be about 150 pages, 170 in the draft form, the first draft. And then I'll have to figure out how to condense it down. It's that 150 to 170 pages is too long. And I just know that this is how the script is coming out, very long form. But I developed a habit in the space that I talked to you about earlier that was so hard for me to do, right? But I am noticing things that he's talking about in the book of like you're mixing contexts in the environment. I'm mixing too many things in this environment to where it's easy for me to get pulled away from my writing. And I want to dedicate myself to my writing. So this week, I'm going to go back to my coffee shop starting tomorrow and work. I'm saying I'm going to work 3 to 4 hours there, but I think I should trust my gut that if I keep making things after 4 hours, I should continue to keep writing until I stop. So some of the things that I noticed when he says cues, it's always like trying to define what cue means for you. So for me, it's like whenever I see a text message on my computer, because you get notifications pop up, I feel the need to respond to it right away, which pulls me out of whatever I'm doing. So I'm thinking maybe I need to get rid of my messages on my computer so I don't see it. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't distract me. These are cues that I'm noticing, and then I'm thinking about. I also get notifications on this application called Mondays, which is like a team networking thing that pop up on my phone, and I notice every time I see it, I want to go to it and see what's going on. But again, it pulls me from what I'm doing versus developing a routine to say, okay, between this time at lunch, I'm gonna check all these notifications, right? And I have 30 minutes to respond to all that, whatever the notifications are. Weed really used to be a cue for me. Weed used to be something when I thought about weed, it made me feel like very creative and like I was excited to smoke because I knew once I smoked, I was going to be in the zone. The moment I smoked, I'm in the zone and I'm about to be creative, right? And so I always had to make sure I did not smoke until I was ready to be creative. Until I was ready to really do whatever I want to do, it made me hyper focused and it made me finish whatever I was trying to do. The only thing that was bad about smoking was it made me also very paranoid about the dumbest things. So I can't control that. It's hard for me to control that, to say. And so the negative side effect of paranoia was the worst feeling ever. And I don't want to feel paranoid. I'd rather just work through it. I do miss the feelings of not caring about anything else that weed creates. Weed makes you so hyper focused that you just don't care about what's going on. You just kind of like forget about problems, which is good and bad. It's like, I think I would rather face my problems and deal with them than use something to make me forget about them. Which leads me to one of these other negative cues that I used to notice that I would do. Again, I'm referring to the environmental things. I have a lot to say on the personal side of this chapter because this is the beginning stage of me realizing, okay, the environment is a very big thing, and I noticed so many things when I was in environments. So for me, like when I was touring with artists, and or whenever I would tour with any artist, no matter who the artist is, if the artist smoked and they smoked often, it would make me want to smoke because they would always offer it. Obviously, I could say no, but if I wanted to relate to them or if I enjoy smoking, I'm gonna smoke. And oftentimes they're smoking at hours that I would never smoke. Maybe they're smoking at 10 a.m. or they're smoking at 1 p.m. They're smoking at 11:30 at night, 1 a.m., right? I've already said that we would make me hyper-focused and give me energy. So if I'm doing that at the wrong times of the day, it made me more addicted to it. It made me have to smoke more because I would get tired and I would have to use energy drinks to keep me going, drink a bunch of water. And I noticed that it would just dry me out. And then in the morning, I'd be so groggy. But I really wouldn't smoke that. I don't smoke that much on my own. I don't smoke like that on my own. And I never did. I don't smoke anymore. I haven't smoked for over a year. So another pat on the back. But the other thing kind of along the same route was just smoking in general. Smoking was always a really hard thing to do, to get rid of for me because of the nicotine. And so whenever I would be in environments that people were vaping or smoking cigarettes, I would want to do that. Whenever I'd see a movie that someone was smoking a cigarette, I'd be like, damn, that cigarette does look good, And like, cigarettes smell awful. The moment you smoke it and you're like, oh, this smells horrible. And then, but you get this like lightheaded buzz feeling. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, I remember why I like to smoke. And then you're done with it and you kind of feel sick and woozy and your breath stinks. And now you smell like shit. Like, I would still get cued to want to smoke whenever I would be around another smoker. So the more I rid myself of it, the more I broke the habit. The more I was around my daughter, my family, I broke the habit. And now when I go around smokers, I don't feel the need to smoke anymore. Because I know my reason why to not smoke and to identify myself as a non-smoker is greater than wanting to smoke, right? Another cue that's kind of a plus and a minus was night working. Nights to me, I've had to learn to let go of working at night, meaning like into late hours. I used to be a very, and maybe although change, that might change again, but right now I associated night working too much with needing to have energy drinks, too much with needing to drink alcohol, too much with like smoking. And so for, the night's like where all the fun happens. And I would always associate that so much with that. So when I would be in my little lab working, I need a drink, I need my little energy drink, I need my little smoke, I need my vape. And it was just so many negative things I was doing such at late night. I would get a lot done, but I would wake up feeling awful. I'd feel groggy the next day. And I always felt like it'd take me so long to get going again the day after. So this cycle would just continue to repeat myself. My health was probably really bad. I'm sure that my baggy eyes was caused to that. Maybe like dehydration. So it wasn't really a positive thing for me to experience that. One of the last things that I'll say about negative cues would be like talking about past relationships. Whenever I get and put myself in an environment where I start thinking about past relationships, or someone asks me about past relationships, that would always be a cue for me to want to speak about it, and then it would create negative feelings in me. So I'm sure anybody can relate to that, of like any relationship you had where it went wrong, and you start to talk about it, negative energy starts. You start getting flustered again, and you get angry all over again. And I've learned to allow myself to, one, forgive things like that, let it go, not hold grudges, and two, to avoid talking about it, but in the term of like, I've already talked about it with them. They know how I feel. I don't need to keep talking about it anymore. And I'm just gonna let time heal whatever problem I have, and I'm not pushing it away, but I've dealt with it. I've made peace with whatever problems that we had, and at this point, it's just time. Time will allow things to heal even more. So I'd rather not continue to gossip about a problem that I've had with somebody in the past, and just move forward with it. So the last thing I'm going to say about this. So I've talked about all my personalizing of this chapter. So hopefully you kind of identify with some of those. But again, it's the small changes in context that can lead to large changes in behavior. Every habit is initiated by a cue. We are more likely to notice cues that stand out. So again, this week, do yourself a favor, make cues of good habits more obvious in your environment. You should gradually your habits become associated with not a single trigger, but the entire context surrounding the behavior. The context becomes the cue. So it is easier, again, reminder, to build a new habit in a new environment because you are not fighting against old ones. So this week for me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find out some new cues for my writing to make me feel like I need to write. I'm going to figure out some cues to make sure I stick to my cooking habits, because I've been cooking. Your boy's been cooking. I'm going to find some new cues to stick to my bedroom routine, which has been good. I've been getting plenty of sleep, going to bed on time and getting up early recently. And then continue my reading and my vlogging. This thing I'm doing here, I'm continuing this habit by associating and habit stacking with making coffee, praying, and reading in the morning. I did that today. I literally did that today. Got up, I said my prayers, I prayed like a mother sucker today because it was Sunday. I got my coffee, and then by the time my daughter woke up, I'd already done a bunch of stuff that I wanted to do, and then the only thing I couldn't do was read. Took her to her grandma's house, read there, got that done. Now I'm accomplished. I've accomplished things in my day. And then the last thing I want to do this week is learn to integrate my work schedule with my new habits. So I got a job that I got to edit this week, and it's going to be a good challenge to figure out how to balance my new habits with some of the old habits that I have, which is editing. So appreciate it. Go relax. It's It's a Sunday. It's a beautiful Sunday. I appreciate you joining, tuning in, and until next time, man, if you don't have it already, pick it up. Find your new habits. Find your good habits. Atomic Habits by James Clear. Thank you so much for watching, guys.